How to ask for a raise without getting fired. This is a tough one because if you're worried about getting fired when you're asking for a raise, it means that you don't know how to or haven't built trust with your boss. We need to fix that. Or, worse still, you think that just by showing up for work and doing your job that you should automatically get a raise. Spoiler alert, that's rarely the case. But as we go into this video, let's talk about the trust piece, because that's the foundation of all the conversations you have with your boss. And the sooner you can learn how to do it, the easier your entire life and your career is going to be. At the end of this video, you'll understand why trust is the foundation for asking for a raise. You'll know exactly what it is that you'll know how to find out exactly what it is that you've committed to your boss and how to make sure that you fill those commitments, you fulfill those promises. And you'll know how to have an authentic, strategic, and productive conversation about your salary and how to not feel totally weirded out by the prospect. Let's talk trust first. This is the foundation of any raise conversation that you want to have, any promotion conversation you want to have. So the first thing to look at is what are the promises that you've made to your boss? Not what are the projects you're working on, not what are the tasks that you've been assigned to you, but what are the promises that you have made directly to your boss? Now, if that makes you draw a complete blank, then we need to look at what you consider to be a promise. If you've got a whole bunch of tasks and you've got to-do lists coming out your ears and you've got a whole lot of stuff that you need to do, make sure that you're picking at least 3 or 4 of those that you can identify as something that your boss is tracking and paying attention to, and that is a commitment that you have made directly to them. One of the things that I will talk about in future videos is how important it is to understand when you've made a commitment to another human being, because that's how we build trust with each other. We build trust with each other based on our ability to be able to deliver on promises we've made to each other. If you don't know what those are, it's really hard to do that, and it's really hard to build trust. And when you don't know what that is, you live in a story that says if you just do good work, if you work really hard, if you deliver the best you possibly can, then you will be successful. That's risky. It's much more effective to understand what it is you've actually committed to your boss and to know what that is and have that live in your consciousness on an ongoing basis. And then when you're done delivering, to make sure your boss knows that you've delivered. So you're closing a loop with them and making sure that they understand that you've completed the work that you've been asked to do and that you've added value for them and they understand what that is. So fantastic starting point for building trust with your boss is to be able to identify 3 to 5 promises you've made to deliver work directly to them. If all you're doing is you're delivering your work to somebody and you're following a task plan, there's a really good chance that you are not delivering value as consciously as you could if you knew exactly who you were delivering that work to. So one of the things that I always ask people when I'm starting a program with them is, what are the commitments that you have made and who have you made them to? Who is your internal customer for getting certain aspects of your work done or certain tasks done? Super important thing to be able to understand. If you don't know what those promises are, that means that you need to have another conversation with your boss, or you need to spend some time doing some serious reflection. If you don't have those 3 to 5 clearly top of mind for you, then it's time to get that sorted out and to really understand what it is that you've committed to. You're not working against just a task list. We all keep task lists. You're not working just against that. You're working against a commitment you've made to another human being. Let's make sure you know what those are. The other thing that's useful to do before you ask for a raise is to sit down and look at the commitments you've made over the last 6, 12, 18 months and make sure that you document those and you understand that the impact that those have had on your team, on your boss, on your organization. And those metrics, again, as I mentioned in another video, should be both quantitative and qualitative. If you want to take this a step further and increase your chances of getting a raise, and where getting fired is not even on the table, what's valuable to do is also look at the commitments that you've made to your peers on your team or to people in other departments. And think of them not as stuff you need to do, like you're the inbox for their whole department, but look at them as commitments that you've made to other human beings. And when I say commitments you've made to other human beings, what people do, because this is what they've been trained to do, is they say, oh, I deliver this report to this department every Friday. Who do you deliver it to in the department? Begin to identify other people on your team and in other departments as human beings with names who you get to know and you get to understand, and you get to understand how they would like things delivered, how they want to collaborate with you, how they want to build trust with you, how they want to co-invent with you. The better you can be at understanding that, the more trust you're going to build across the organization. If you can say yes to all of this, if you're really clear on what the commitments are that you hold and that you've negotiated, and you understand who your internal customers are, because it's not just your boss. It is your boss, absolutely, but it's not just your boss. Then, if you can say yes to all of that, then you're absolutely in a position to be able to ask for a raise. If, in addition to that, you're also had performance reviews for a while that show that you are at a level of excellence or that you are delivering beyond expectations. Once you're doing that, then you're definitely in a position to be able to ask for a raise. So let's talk about that. Before you ask for your raise, the best way to make it easier for yourself is to do all the things I've mentioned above, but also to do the promotion readiness assessment. It's called a promotion readiness assessment, but it's also a raise readiness assessment. This is where I ask you to make sure you've done your homework and also make sure that you can honestly say that if you were your boss, you would give yourself a raise. Let's get you to that point. Promotion readiness assessment is in the comments. It's www.getpromotedassessment.com, and it's free. Go try it, see how it works for you. The other thing to do is to see it from your boss's perspective. To help you see things from your boss's perspective, and this might take a little while the first time you do it, but it gets much, much faster as you do it on a recurring basis, is to really understand what it is that they have on their plate. There's a fantastic tool called an empathy map. You can look it up on the web. It's called an empathy map. And the empathy map will really help you get a sense of what your boss is dealing with. It looks at what they have on their plate, it looks at what they're hearing, what they're getting sent to them, how they're dealing with their goals and their own commitments. And what you're doing is you're building a picture for yourself of what your boss has on their plate. So you're not just going in and saying, I want a raise. You're going in and understanding what they're dealing with and being empathetic about that before you begin to have that conversation. So this conversation will undoubtedly feel uncomfortable at first, but what you're looking to do in here is you're looking to build trust with your boss. And you're going in having done your homework. You're not necessarily going in and going, I want a raise. You're going in and having a conversation with your boss around where you stand in terms of your performance. So I always recommend to people that they have these conversations under the umbrella of, I just like to check in with you and see how I'm doing from a performance perspective, right? Now your boss knows that you're paying attention to your performance so you can get a raise. But what you're doing in here is you're taking into account where your boss stands in terms of his or her ability to be able to go and ask for a raise for you, or whether or not you're fitting in with the raise and promotion cycles within your company. So if you can understand those and you understand what it's like to be in your boss's shoes, you can have a conversation that's much more authentic and much more about designing something with your boss rather than sort of going in and demanding a raise. That never works. So in terms of structuring the raise conversation, you've now done your homework, you understand what's on your boss's plate, and you want to be able to structure the raise conversation. So rather than making that kind of have a raise, it's, I'd like to talk to you about my performance. Now, this is where it's really important for you to be able to honestly assess your own performance, because you don't want a whole bunch of surprises coming in here. You've got to know that you've been doing well over a period of time. You've been delivering on the commitments that you've made to your boss and to others, but particularly to your boss, and that they're viewing your performance the same way you're viewing your performance. That's why the performance readiness assessment is so important, because it forces you to be brutally honest with yourself, and it asks you the question whether or not you think you're ready for a raise. Never go into a conversation asking for a raise when you don't think you're ready for it. There's no point whatsoever in kind of taking a shot at it, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It'll do you more damage than it'll do you good. And I'm here to make sure that you do things that are most definitely to help yourself as you work through your career and your promotion cycles. The goal in the conversation with your boss is that they get to see you as a high performer. If they see you as a high performer, they're going to advocate for you. You're trying to make sure that there's a great connection between how you see yourself, how you feel you've done for a performance for the last 6, 12, 18 months, and how your boss sees you. If you're having a conversation late in the cycle, coming up close to a promotion, and you discover that there's a big disconnect, the important thing to recognize there is you should have had this conversation 6 months ago. So don't ever put yourself in a position where you're asking for a raise without having done the lead up, without having done the homework, without having done the preparation. Give yourself time to build up to these conversations. Your goal is to get yourself on the same page as your boss, to where asking for a raise is something that they expected you to do and they're ready to be able to give it to you, and they've put you on the list for a raise or a promotion in the next cycle, and they're just moving ahead with making that happen, and you're simply giving them the ammunition they need to be able to make the case to get you that raise that you're looking for. If you ever think that asking for a raise might get you fired, then please go back and see whether or not you've built a level of trust with your boss that allows you to be able to have real conversations. If you're nervous about getting fired because you're asking for a raise, it means you don't understand your own value. Go back, do the promotion readiness assessment, make sure you understand your own value, and then get yourself ready to have that conversation with your boss. Most important thing to remember in here is your boss actually wants you to get promoted, but they have a finite budget and a finite amount of time and a finite amount of energy and effort to push for you to get promoted. What you're doing is you're looking to get in alignment with them, to build trust with them, and to make sure that you're helping them help you. So the best thing that you can possibly do is have this brutally honest conversation with yourself, and then once you've prepared yourself, go and have that conversation with your boss. Best tool for doing that is the promotion readiness assessment, www.getpromotedassessment.com. Link is down below in the comments. Take it, get yourself ready, and don't be afraid of getting fired, because you'll have done your homework and you'll feel confident about it. I wish you the best of luck.